Alright guys, the next major idea in computer science is the idea where you write a program and you get to a spot where you have to make a decision. If this is true, then we're going to do this, and if this is true, we're going to do that. So that's a really important concept, and the fancy word for that is called selective processing. So let me just give you an idea what we're going to do today. Alright, so I've made a little screen here. We're going to go through a number of examples. So let's do a little introduction. And I've already set myself up to use the Visual Basic input box. And what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to basically say what city are you from? And if you're from Hamilton, I'm going to say good, and if you're from Toronto, I'm going to say bad. Okay, so let's just start off and we'll say string city, and we're going to ask the person to enter a city. Now this one we don't have to say int parse because city's a string, you don't have to do any math to it, so we're just going to start off and say Microsoft dot and then Visual Basic dot and then interaction dot and then input box bracket enter city. Okay, just a simple question. Now here's the new word we're going to start using with decisions. You're going to say this word if, and you're going to say basically if the city equals quotes Hamilton. Now notice I use two equal signs, and if it's true I'm going to say message box dot show great. Then there's a new word we're going to learn. If it's not true, then I'm going to say else if city equals Toronto, message box dot show bad. Okay, now the way a computer program works that uses if statements is it basically makes one decision or the other, and not both. Once it does one, it skips the other ones. Now, before I continue, I notice up here the input box is getting mad at me because I didn't complete it all. So I'll fill in the remaining two things that it needs, and hopefully that'll fix up that little red mark it's making on us. Okay, so there it is. So let's just take a look at, for example, what it's going to look like when we run it. Okay, so I press the button, it asks me a question, enter the city, I'll type in Hamilton, and it says great. I'll try it again, I'll type in Toronto, and it says bad. What if I type in Montreal? Doesn't say anything, okay? Because none of the two conditions was met. Basically, if it was Hamilton, I was going to say this, else if it was Toronto, I was going to say this, and if it's neither one of those, it actually goes down to where that little line is right now, so it doesn't do either one. But once it does one, it skips all the rest. Okay, so just to review a couple of things, when you're comparing things, you use two equal signs, not one, which is kind of weird. But now let's do a same kind of question with numbers, and we're going to ask for a person's age. So we're going to say integer age, and then we're going to say age equals int dot parse bracket, and I'm going to save myself some time and copy this whole thing up here. Okay, and I'll paste it inside of there. Of course I got to change the words on it. Put a little extra bracket there, and I'm going to say enter age. Okay, so now we're going to say if you're greater than or equal to 65, you're a senior citizen. If you're not, you're just an adult. Okay, which isn't entirely true, I know, but let's just get the idea in here. So you go if your age, and if you forget your math, that's a greater than sign, that's equal to 65. And then we're going to say message box dot show senior, else if your age is the opposite of that, so it's less than. Okay, if you forget your math, remember that's how you do less than sign, and then squiggly line, and then you'd say message box dot show, or I guess to be more correct, we'll say not senior. Okay, because you could be a little baby too and be less than 65. Okay, let's try that one out. Let's first of all save it, and we'll run it. So for that one, we press it. Okay, enter city again, so it asks us for the first one. So I'm going to type in Hamilton. It should say great. Then it should ask me another question, what's your age? And I'm going to say 75. And when I press it, it should say senior. Great. Okay, so that's the two basic kinds of if statements. You have if statements with words, and you have if statements with numbers. All right, let's take a look at a more challenging problem. What if you had to ask a person their age, but you had to say you're between this and this? So let's say we wanted teenagers. So you said you're between 13 and 18, let's say. How do you actually say that in computer? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually just copy both these two lines here to save me a bit of typing. All right, so I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it into here. All right, and here's what I'm going to say now. So I'm going to say if your age, now watch the way I say it, is greater than or equal to 13, and there's this weird kind of symbol. There's two N signs. They're right above the 7 key. So you're saying if your age is greater than or equal to 13, and your age is less than or equal to 18. So you're sort of squeezing it between those two. Then you say, I don't know, you're a teenager or something, okay? Okay, that's another way to do if statements, and let's just test it out. All right, so it's the second one. All right, so enter your age. So if I say I'm 15, I'm a teenager. What if I say I'm 25? It's not going to say anything because there's nothing there to say. All right, so the way if statements work, if this is true, it does it. If it doesn't, it skips down to the next thing, if there's anything there. All right. So there's another symbol too that you should be familiar with. It's called the or. So it can say sometimes if you're 18 or 19, then you're going to be a certain thing. So let me show you how that works. All right. So else if your age equals 19, and look at this symbol, or your age equals 20, then you're going to say something else. Message box.show you can vote, or something like that. So for this one, with the or, you could be 19 or 20. It's different than this one. You're not squishing it in between. Those are the other two possibilities. That's the word or. So let's try that for a second. Okay, I'm going to say I'm 21. It's not going to do anything. Then I'm going to say I'm 19. That's good. And then I'm going to say I'm 20. Okay, so that's basically all the possible combinations I can think of. You've got your basic word if statements, your simple math statements, more complex ones where you've got two conditions. Now, once you have this knowledge of selections, you can do all kinds of neat things. Let me start off. I'm going to grab this line, and this one I'm going to ask a person for a number, any number. All right, so I'm going to go like this, integer number, and then I'm going to paste that in, and I'm going to say enter a number, and it's going to go into number. And what I'm going to do in this one is figure out whether the number is even or odd. And it's kind of neat what you can do to print that something's even or odd. Basically, you go like this. You go if the number percent, that's kind of weird, 2 equals 0. What that means is if you divide a number by 2 and the leftover is 0, so like if you go 4 divided by 2, it goes in twice and there's nothing left over. 5 divided by 2, no. That's 2, but you get 1 left over. So the way it works is if there's nothing left over, it's an even number. Okay? And then else, this is a new thing. I'm not going to put the if this time. There's a kind of else where you don't need to say if. If there's only two possibilities, if it's not one, and it's automatically the opposite then, else message box dot show odd. Okay, let's try that out. So I type in 6, which is definitely even, and it says even. And then I try 7, which is definitely odd, and it says odd. Okay, let's take a look at one of the questions I gave you for homework. This one right here is a good question. Write a program which will accept 4 marks to determine the average. Once the average is programmed, it should display you passed or you failed. Okay, so here is the solution. And it's basically on the programs I've been doing all along. So if you're going to ask a person for 4 marks, 3 marks, or whatever, let's pretend you ask them for 4 marks. You have to tell the computer ahead of time, I've got 4 marks that I'm going to put into your brain, okay? And then I'm going to work out an average. And then what you do 4 times is you ask them to enter a mark. Now, to work out the average has to be, it could be a decimal, right? So what you do is you make the average a double, and then to force the computer to work out these and make it into a double, you use this thing with brackets, and that's called casting. Okay, so it takes that answer and puts it into decimal format if it has to be decimals. So once you have this answer, what you tell the computer is, listen, was that answer I just worked out bigger than or equal to 50? Because if it is, you passed. Otherwise, you failed. Let's try it out. Okay, so let's do this one where this guy definitely passes. So I'll type in a 50, I'll type in a 60, a 70, and an 80. Okay, so you passed. Let's do it again, but this time he fails all the tests. 20, 30, 40, and 50. You failed. Okay, and I guess it would be nice actually to print out his average. So before I work out that you passed or failed, I could say the following: message box.show your average was plus, and then go average dot to string, and then I don't know if you remember this, n2 means we're going to put it to 2 decimal places, which is kind of neat. Okay, let's try it again. So this time we're going to enter 55, 66, 78, 89, so his average is 71.75, and that's definitely a pass. The last question I want to leave you with is a sort of a practical application of if statements, and we take a look at a gas company's billing method. And it's kind of different. You got to do a little bit of math in your head to do it actually. And basically the way it works is they measure gas in cubic feet, and if you use up to 8, it costs 50 cents each. This is when your parents use their furnace or their water heater. Now more than 8, it's an additional 30 cents. So the way it works is it just don't get charged 30 cents. You get charged all of the 8 from before plus the extra over 8 for 30 cents. Okay, so for instance, if you use 9, they would charge you the whole 8 times 50 cents, which is $4. And then that one extra over 8, you'd get charged an additional 30 cents. So it'd be $4.30 altogether. Here is the program that answers that. Okay, basically you have to ask the person their gas and work out the bill. Now if the gas is less than or equal to 8, the bill is just straight the amount of gas they used times 50 cents. If it's over 8, you charge them the whole 8 plus the gas they used minus 8. So like the one I just did with you guys, 9 minus 8, that would be the extra 1 times 30 cents, and you work out the bill. Only problem is, how come it's giving me an error on bill? Well, we've been sort of getting away with a lazy way to do these questions. Formally, whenever you do problems and you have to work out an answer, you should start the computer off at 0. Now watch. What's going to happen is that will disappear on us. So when we run it, now it'll work. So if I enter in this and I type in 9, $4.30. Okay?